Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, so I just finished doing the washer and dryer, which you saw a couple days ago, and now I want to set up this swamp cooler, this porta-cool device, because one of the next things I want to do is put the lights on in here in the garage, and it's a little hot to do that. So we'll start with this thing, and hopefully we can cool the garage down a little bit, and it'll be a little bit more comfortable to be out here. Alright, so the setup of these things is actually pretty simple. You just pull it out of the box, you fill it up with water. It actually holds about 10 gallons of water. You can kind of fill it up from here, or you can actually just plug it into a hose and it'll just run indefinitely. This controls the amount of water you go. Get your fill valve here, so I got it almost completely full. And then you have over here, you have the fan controller and the pump, and basically what happens when you turn the pump on, the water kind of drips down this panel in the back, and when the air sucks through it, it gets cool and then it blows out the front. And that's kind of the theory of how these things work. So yeah, this thing was pretty simple to set up. It's blowing some pretty cool air now. It actually feels pretty good coming out of there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this on in here for a little while, and I'm going to make a trip over to Home Depot because I need to get some propane and some pellets for this bad boy. Alright, so I went over to Home Depot and picked up a couple of propane tanks. That turned out to be a little bit more complicated than I expected. I went into the store and I found the propane tanks inside the store, but they clearly weren't full. So my impression was you bought the tank and then you paid them to fill it, because it kind of makes sense if you're going to store the tanks inside. You don't want them filled with gas, because there's always, the possibility somebody, either opens up the valve or there's some sort of an accident and you have an explosion issue. Well, it turns out they sell empty tanks and they sell full tanks, and unfortunately they don't have the process to fill the tanks on site. They contract somebody to do that. So that turned out to be a little bit more complicated than expected, because I didn't find out that they couldn't fill up the empty tanks there until after I checked out. So then they ended up selling me these two tanks, and I had to take the other tanks over to the return desk and get my money back that way. So anyway, it was a little bit of a pain in the neck, but we did finally get it, and you know what, I'll know for next time. And I intentionally got two of them because that way when the first one's empty, I know I have to get another one, but I have another one. So we're good to go there. I also bought some of the pellets, mesquite and hickory pellets for the pellet grill for the smoker. So, we'll play with that at some point too, but basically got all that. We're ready to go on this thing. So I think the next thing I need to do is put one of the tanks on the grill and move it out into the backyard. Oh, and a couple of you commented that I probably should have put a couple of USB plugs in the house when I replaced all the electrical outlets. And you know what? You convinced me. So I went out and bought a couple of those too. So I think we're going to put one of those in the living room and then one in each of the bedrooms. And while I was there, I found some food for the bird feeders, so I decided to restock that. Hopefully we can get a little bird activity around here. I love having birds visit the yard. And I also noticed that there was a squirrel kind of bouncing around a little bit here today, so I decided to buy a little squirrel food too, especially considering the fact that this bird feeder here has anti-squirrel technology. So I think before I wrap this day up entirely, I want to go put the lights in the garage. But before I do that, I think I'm going to take a swim because it's getting hot out, and I've worked pretty hard this morning already. Alright, so I got the propane tank hooked up, got all the stickers and nonsense taken off the outside of it, and got it moved out into the backyard where it's going to live. I think this will be a good place for it. I think I'm actually going to probably have to put a little bit of an extension cord on it because it's a little bit short to reach to that outlet. And I'd like to kind of get it more over here so it isn't quite so close to the edge of the patio cover. I don't want it getting wet, at least now more than it has to. But I think we'll probably try and cook something on this tonight. This looks like it's going to do a good job, and yeah. So I think that's all that I have for tonight. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.